good afternoon, good evening, morning, wherever you are. We say hello to you and we say welcome again for joining us on another literary hour. We are glad to be here as always. Prof,
Yes,
what
Jackie.
say you?
Yeah, we are all happy to be here. Friday is the time we feel excited to be around. I'm excited to come.
Yeah, I think I think people got plans for the weekend, Prof, when we're
I
here.
don't know where where are you going.
Yeah, so anyway,
Mhm.
we're glad to have you here. Um, uh, uh, and Prof, I deliberately decided not to call you so that we can go over this book because I read this book so many years ago,
Yeah.
so many years ago. And reading it again, it was like, this is Africa's animal farm. This is Africa's
Mhm.
mystic reformation of Gondolia.
Mhm.
Everything is in this book, Prof. I don't know if an hour or an hour and a half is enough. We will
Mhm.
try, but it seems as if this book mirrors everything that's happening today, although it was written 20 plus years ago. And I'm talking about none other than Ant Hills of the Savannah by Chinua Achebe. Yeah. I think his fifth book, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
Facebook.
At the time when he was not well, you know, the twilight years, as we say.
Mhm.
Yeah. And this book is very, very interesting, Prof. It is so interesting. And I would ask you to please get a copy and read Ant Hills of the Savannah. It is an amazing book. And Prof always say to me, because when I've read the book, I can't believe people haven't read the book. I'm like, what do you mean? And Prof said, Jackie, everybody that like you don't read the book. So oh yeah. And interestingly, I wrote a lot, and I have my paper, but I was rushing today from work, and I left it right on the table. But don't you worry, Prof. I read
Yeah,
that book.
I know. You know about it.
Yeah. So, do you want to give our viewers an overview of the book, and then I'll jump in after you, and then we take it from there? But don't reveal
You
anything,
see,
Prof.
my trouble with. But anyway, the you know, if you look at the book, they will tell you that I mean, other critics that have looked at the book will talk about the fact that Anne Hills, uh, it's a symbol of people's power, people's voice, and what have you. I think also one needs to add that it is a symbol of damage. It is a symbol of destruction, of hopes, and all that. But basically, ant hills of the savannah uh, is interested in or is focusing on the politics of conquering, the politics of destroying the hopes of ordinary people. It is also the politics that will come with people's unconquering desire to lord it over other people. We see three, four key characters that run through the entire uh, narrative. We see Chris. I mean, we see Sam, who is actually the leader, who comes in immediately after a coup has occurred. We see Chris, who is there to kind of give some perspective, some order to life in politics as a place there. we also see Beatrice, who happens to be the consort of Chris. She is learned as well, and she also has an important role to play in the conduct of politics in Kanga. And then we have Ikem, who is supposed to give perspective, maybe from the outside, looking in and what have you. He is the leader of the government, you say government newspaper and what have you. It is the clutch of ideas, the clutch of desires and all that that kind of form the center core of the narrative as we work our way through parts of it. Well, one of the things before Ms. Jackie comes in, one of the things that you see over there is to pose the question: what is politics? What is politics? What drives the emotion of people? What drives the ego of people so that people who may have started as colleagues, they get to a point and all of a sudden there is the kind of eating up one another, you know. So that is also at the center of ant hills of the savannah.
Jackie, you're muted.
And these three, Sam, Ikem, and Chris, they're all schoolmates.
Yeah.
They went abroad to school, you know, and they returned. But they have this. Well, Chris and Sam had this friendship. They were very close. Yeah. For purposes of understanding, Sam comes to power in a military coup or in a coup, and then Chris, he names Chris his Minister of Information or Commissioner of Information. And then Ikem is the editor for the national newspaper. But let's take a while to just look at these three characters. So Sam, when he got to power in the earlier chapters, he's very unsure of himself, you know, because to be president for life, you have to have a
The whole
hundred
thing
percent of the vote.
about being paranoid is very much
Yes,
important. Yes.
yes,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and you have to have 100% of the vote.
Yes.
But there is one province, right, that did not vote for him. So even though, and this is where the sycophancy comes in, even though the one province didn't vote for him, his sycophants around him say, "Oh, but don't worry about it. You still a president for life. You can still be president for life." So as he exercises power and authority, he becomes bolder. You know, he becomes more erratic, but he also becomes bolder.
And that
Yeah.
boulder, being boulder, is more of a facade.
Yes. Yes.
It's a facade. Deep down, deep down, deep down, he is still not sure of himself.
Yeah.
Deep down, he is diffident. You know, and it's otherwise he won't go after Ikem, he won't go after Chris and all those. And Beatrice, you know, who tries to serve as a counterbalancing force, you know, she gets caught up in the whole thing as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And when it starts, it's just a meeting, you know, and you can see, I mean, the people are just throwing themselves over to please the king. I mean, king, sorry. Yeah, the king. To please this military leader, this to please Sam. Um, uh, um, the attorney general. Oh my lord. When Sam tells him, say, you can be the attorney and I will be the general,
Yeah.
right? And he brings news to Sam, the president, and Sam will say, who doesn't like me? Right? And he will say, oh, this person, I don't think they're 100% behind you. So he used to take messages, he used to take secrets to him. And then but at the beginning, Chris was not afraid of him. right, Prof?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm listening. Yes.
yeah, Prof. He wasn't afraid of him. He felt like he felt like we are friends. So I'm not supposed to be afraid of this guy.
Mhm.
But interestingly enough, what's his name? Sam. Sam says that his uncle, I guess, told him the people who you grow up with are the people who have no respect for you. So be careful with the people.
Mhm.
So that's why, even though Chris was his friend, he felt like Chris was not really for him. But what I found amazing was how no matter what position they held, people were so anxious to fall for to do anything the president wanted. you know, anything. And there was if it was against the law, they would find a way.
That's the aura. That's, you see, that's the aura of power.
Yes.
And it is that aura, that energy of power that so saturate other people, and if they are not always reflective, they tend to follow the wrong path, and that
Yes.
is where the destruction of a nation gets in. And that is what, as we see to the end, that is where the destruction of especially when he begins to hunt uh, those
Okay.
he sees as his
Yes.
enemies, and goes out of them. See,
Okay. And so for those listening, so while they're in a meeting, the book is very interesting because it's like Chris is telling his side of the story,
yeah.
Ikem is telling his side of the
Yes,
story,
yes, yes,
Beatrice is the
yeah,
cohesive force that
yes.
goes through,
Uh-huh,
but
uh-huh.
each person has their own little story that they are telling.
Yes.
So while they're in this meeting, there's this noise, and the noise comes from outside, and Liberian people would know this. If there's a protest
Yes.
happening outside. So he tells one of them to go out and look and see what's happening outside. So the guy goes and say, "Oh, the people from what is it called? Azibon,
No, Abizon.
Abizon.
Yeah.
They are here to meet you, to petition you.
Yeah.
They don't have any water.
Yeah.
But Abizon is the only province that did not vote for this
Yeah.
man. Did not vote for Sam.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam says God's punishment for the drought. He starts by saying it's God's punishment. But interestingly enough, Ikem is from Azebon,
Yeah. Yeah.
Abezon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ikem is from there. So Ikem with the newspaper, he's writing,
Yeah.
he's writing about their plight. He's
Yeah.
writing about things that because by this time, Ikem is very disillusioned. He
Yeah.
say all these things, they're just crap,
Yeah.
not there's nothing, there's no working towards the
Yeah.
common good.
Mhm.
He's not listening. So Chris is trying to play mediator in a way, because when the president tries to tell Chris to fire Ikem,
Yeah.
Chris says no. And Chris says to the president, I want to resign. And the president said, you think that America this or England? This is a military government and you will not resign. I will not accept your resignation. But here is one man who is principled, who knows that he cannot do what the president is saying at the time, and he rather resigns than stay there and do what the president wants, But of course, the president did not accept his resignation,
Yeah.
so he's there. Yeah,
And then, of course, that becomes his undoing.
yeah,
I'm talking about Ikem now.
yeah,
If you are, you must be for us, and
yes,
if you are not for us, then definitely you are an enemy.
yes,
You see,
yes,
so it's in there too. You get a sense of Marxism, that is interested in the plight and condition of the ordinary people, and therefore there is an urgency to kind of respond to the plight of the people. Unfortunately, the Sam man has become top heavy
yeah,
and will not kind of buy into that. And anyone who is buying into that, especially of course when he gets to know that he got to know a good while that Ikem is a son of Abizon. And once out of his own training, out of his own experiences and what have you, he begins to talk for the ordinary people. Sam cannot take that. And since
Yeah.
Sam cannot take that, that's where part of the tension begins, and he's
Yeah.
eventually run out of
Yeah.
town, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, he meets his
Yeah.
end there.
Yeah, because but Sam in the way he rules, Sam does not feel that he should reach out to the people.
No.
He says, "No, I am the president
Mhm.
and I'm here for life.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with these people.
Okay.
They can
It is
protest
voting.
all they want. That's
Yes.
not my problem."
Yes. It is voting. It is voting that will bring in the power of
Yeah.
the people.
Yeah.
And since there is no voting, obviously, who has time for you? Who
Yeah.
has
Nobody
time
has time for
for
you.
the
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Unfortunately, that's been part of what's been occurring in Africa, Latin America, and a few other places out there, for which the voice of the people is something that people have to always look to be able to look at, to be able to help uh, uh, pursue the direction of the nation.
the interesting thing about this book is that it focuses in part on the average man, the masses, as they say. But the masses, although it's focusing on Chris, Beatrice, and Sam's and Ikem's relation to them. How each person relate to the masses.
That's
Sam
very
doesn't care. Sam
yeah,
is president for life.
yeah.
So Sam doesn't care whether he doesn't even reach out to the masses.
Mhm.
When the people of Abizon comes to petition him, he doesn't even go to see them. He's like, ah man,
Yeah.
Ikem is a child of Abizon.
Mm-hmm.
So he in fact he uses his platform, this
Yeah.
newspaper, to write about their plight, to talk about a hymn. He
Yeah.
did a hymn where
Yeah.
he said the people of Abizon, when they never had water before, they just moved to another town, conquered that town,
Yeah.
and took over. But now there's no longer time for them to move. So they are petitioning their president who doesn't care about them.
Mhm.
You know, one thing, and then he gets into a confrontation with some taxi drivers.
Yeah.
He's driving his old car because actually Ikem is really, there may be some disconnect, but he's really the person closest to the masses. He doesn't feel that he should drive an expensive
Deserving, yeah.
car, So he
Man of the
drives his
people.
car.
Yeah.
Yeah, he drives his car, and when he had a little altercation with the taxi driver who comes to apologize, the taxi driver was shocked to find out that, oh, this is our man.
Yeah.
And he talked to him. He said, "Oh, I'm so happy to meet you," and things like that. You know, but when the taxi driver was going, they pick up Beatrice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Beatrice, they started talking, and there's an interesting article I was reading about the fact that Chinua Achebe talks a lot about the nation state, but you can have a dysfunctional state and have a cultural nation. So the cultural nation is the group of people, I guess the masses who share common culture, common ideals, common values, So it's like if you're taxi, like the keke people in Liberia, the keke people, the taxi drivers, those people, it's almost like they have their own nation. It's a cultural nation. It's not a political nation like a territorial boundaries, but they
Yeah.
do have that.
Yeah, the thing about it is if one looks at the history of nation and nation state,
Yeah,
one is going to find out that state, the whole structure of state has to do with the imposition of politics.
yeah, yeah,
And when you talk about nation, you talk about the culturalness of the people. So
yeah,
within the context of what people often sought to do is that instead of talking about nation and talk about state, people decided that it will be a useful thing to use it as one word which incorporates both the understanding of what a state is by virtue of its structure and what have you, and then you talk about nation, which has to do with the people who, from points of view of diversity, have come together to work as a unit. So we have
Yeah.
nation state, which talks to the diversity, and the state part, which has to do with the power structure, the authority structure, and what have you. So when you bring all these things to, in fact, this is the making of modern politics. This is the
Yeah.
making of modern politics. So we talk about the modern statehood, which has to do with the nation state, where you have a variety of ethnicities coming together, agreeing through law and what have you to work together for a common purpose. That kind of can easily pose its own challenges and what have you. But people have to work together to leave something out and keep some things going. In other words, not completely leaving it out, but understanding that one nation, one cultural nation cannot, in these modern times with travel and all those things here, one cultural nation cannot by itself feed itself, uh, protect itself, and what have you. But with the commonality of working together, there can be something profound that comes out of collectivity.
Yeah, and because when Chris goes to Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
right? He says he came to realize that the capital is not the nation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what he realized. He said that he said the nation is not just the capital landscape. That was when after
And
he came,
Bassa.
when he decided to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean the thing that struck me about the book is how the ordinary people, the taxi drivers, the people who came to listen to Ikem, you know, although Achebe says, the book focuses on them, their story and the tragedy of the nation can be seen through these characters, right? Because when Chris argues with the president, it becomes a national tragedy, the ensuing things that follow. So it's a personal quarrel between them, but it also I think you and I were talking about petals of blood, and how Ningugi,
Mm-hmm.
he differed from Achebe, because I, whereas Ngugi wanted revolution,
Mm-hmm.
Achebe says no, let's try to reform
Mm-hmm.
before revolution. Let's try and see if we can fix things.
Yeah.
So at
Maybe
one point,
evolution and all that.
yeah, Nugugi didn't have time for him again until Ant Hills of the Savannah, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is, you know, I hope more people would read this book, because it seemed as if with Things Fall Apart was a great book, Man of the People. So, but Ant Hills of the Savannah, Prof, it's like Achebe matured. He came into his own to say, I am writing a masterpiece. And that's what the people say of the 1980s. This was one of the significant books of the 1980s out of Africa, Antilles of the Savannah.
Yeah. One
Yeah.
have to keep in mind too that 87 is like 10, almost 10 years away from the hardcore revolution that was flowing in Africa immediately after 1960s.
Prof? Is it me or is it you, Prof?
Go ahead, Jackie. He froze.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that came out of the book was that in the 1980s there were a lot of reimagining, reconfiguring of nation states in Africa. So when Achebe wrote the book, Ngugi said Achebe came back into the fold, because whereas Achebe always talk about revolution, Ngugi always talk about revolution, and Achebe always talk about reformation, reforming the state. It seemed as if Achebe, after all of the things that Nigeria went through, the trouble with Nigeria and everything, that he was ready for a different strategy. He was not ready again for reformation. So Chris, who is the go-between, we have three different characters. Sam is the president for life. Ikem is the editor of the newspaper, and then you have Chris, who is actually the minister of information. And although Chris believes in freedom of the press, Sam is his friend. The president is his friend. The president tells him, "You are there to do what? Publicize my speeches, write anything I tell you to write. That's your job." So gradually, little by little, Chris is being co-opted into Sam's fold. So when Ikem comes to him and says to him, Sam is a dictator, Chris is trying to explain to Ikem that sometimes people need to have a dictator. I'm sure sometimes people in Liberia, they say, "Oh, all we need is a benevolent dictator." So Chris is explaining to Ikem why it seems as if maybe they do need a dictator, and this is what he says. And he says nations were fostered as much by structures as by laws and revolutions. These structures, where they exist now, are the pride of their nations. But everyone forgets that they were not erected by democratically elected prime ministers, but very frequently by rather unattractive, bloodthirsty, medieval tyrants. The cathedrals of Europe, the Taj Mahal of India, the pyramids of Egypt, and the stone towers of Zimbabwe were all raised on the backs of serfs, starving peasants, and slaves. Our present rulers in Africa are in every sense late flowering medieval monarchs, even the Marxists among them. Do you remember Mazuri calling Nkrumah or Stalinist Tsar? Perhaps our leaders have to be that way. Perhaps they may even need to be that way. So little by little, as you read the book, you will see that in the beginning, every one of them were all idealistic. Although Sam came to power in a coup, Sam also is saying, I'm trying to help my country. I want to listen to the people, even though everybody didn't vote for me. But the people around him, they say, well, even though everybody didn't vote for you, we still made you president for life. So you don't need to listen to the people. So little by little, as the people around him started to give him more and more power, Sam became chaotic, evil, despotic, and a tyrant. His friend Chris, who went to school with him in England, tries very hard to be that bridge between him and the people. But Sam says, my minister say, I don't have to meet those people, And the only reason that, they made me president for life, but those people on Abizon, they didn't vote for me, so I don't even have to listen to them. Ikem, on the other side, is the editor of the national newspaper, but Ikem feels that he should publish what he wants to publish and publish the real story, as he calls it. He's not here to do anything that the president tells him to do. So there's a conflict between Ikem and between the president. The person who stands between is Chris, and Chris is trying to bridge the gap. So when the president is in his meeting with all of his ministers, and he hears this protest outside, and he goes and he looks outside, he says to them, am I supposed to meet with these people? And the minister says, oh no, you don't have to meet with these people. In fact, these people are the one who didn't vote for you. They are from the province that didn't vote for you, so you don't have to meet with them. So of course he goes, he tells one of the prof to go out and ask the people, what do they want? And the people, they tell him, oh, they want to meet him because they are really suffering. They don't have water, And of course, the president just kind of brushes them off. And our prof is right back.
Welcome to
Yeah.
the world of technology.
Yes. Yeah, Prof, we were talking about Sam's metamorphosis, when Sam is kind of justifying why uh, 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 the nation of Kanga might need
Mm,
a dictator.
yeah.
Yeah, he says that, in the olden days you had dictators building at Europe.
Justification. Yeah.
Yeah, so why can't why can't the same thing be said of Kanga? Yeah, so that's what we were discussing.
Yeah. And in look at the entire history of humankind. There are a few key words that never, whether they are implicit or explicit, that people should never ignore. And one of them is relevance. The other one is ego. All through these words, you find the kernel of justification. I want to act. And then the key thing is I want to justify why I'm acting. When it comes to power play, when it comes to authority and what have you, people want to justify. But we talk about relevance, that I am, that I'm worth, that I'm breathing, I am alive. So when you hear Sam trying to act and trying to find ways to justify why his action is important and necessary, we see an element of this whole idea of first the ego, okay, and then you have relevance, and then you have the third thing, which is justifying all these things coming together. So that's why you find that's what we find in the case of Sam.
Yeah, and one person that we should not ignore is Beatrice,
Yeah,
because I laugh when you said the consort of Chris, because if you look at the first slide, I introduced her as an independent woman.
yes,
Because
of course.
yeah, because why is true that she is the girlfriend of
Yeah,
of Chris. Beatrice sees things. You see, Beatrice is of the nation, that cultural nation. She can relate to the masses. She's an educated woman, but she
yeah.
can relate.
She has a
So
voice. Yeah.
so she used to joke with the president before he was president.
Mhm.
And even when he was president, after a while, she would joke. But something changed in Sam. And for those of us who haven't read the book, for those of you who haven't read the book, read the book. The book shows you what power does to a person, how it either corrodes your integrity, your morality, the way you react to people. And not only the way you react to people, the way people react around you. You have the authority,
Mhm.
which is given to you by the virtue that you are the head. And then you have the power that comes along with that authority. you know and people react to it differently.
Some out
So
of respect, some out of fear. Yeah.
yeah, some out of fear, yeah, some out of job, whatever. So Beatrice, when she's invited by the president to the party, she starts to wonder, why am I going to this party? But she goes, only to find out that she's there because there's an American journalist, and they want her to tell him, man, everything is okay.
Yeah.
And the man is drinking, this American journalist is drinking and saying to her, oh, you're a woman, tell me about the woman angle, you know? And of course, she sees also that this journalist is corrupt. He's drunk. He's just writing what the president wants him to write. So of course, when she leaves, her discussion with Chris is very important, because Beatrice says to Chris, why didn't you call me after I
For
came back? Why
women.
didn't you check on me? And then she says to him, something has changed. These people were discussing Ikem. They were convicting him in absentia. I am scared. Something has changed. And that foreshadowing You know.
And that
Mhm.
shows the thermometer element of
Yes.
Beatrice.
Yes.
She is keeping the temperature.
Yep.
She is understanding the temperature of what is rising. You
Yes.
can even think within the context of Sam, you can even think about Macbeth. You know,
Yes. Yes.
all of a sudden, the vanity, uh, the kind of empty power which people who get in power understand, and yet they don't understand it so well that human might is no might at all.
Yeah.
Human power is no power at all. And yet it is that power that gets to their heads and they think that they are invincible.
Yes.
And it is when they reach the point of invincibility, sadly, that certain things begin to happen. And the certain things that begin to happen, sadly, do not destroy themselves as individuals, but destroy a whole nation.
Yeah.
And that is eventually what happens in the case of Sam. And that is again part of why this novel is very much important for us to fully understand it.
Yeah. 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 Because Beatrice, it wasn't her first time. You know, she will always say to Chris, "What I see frightens me.
Yes, yes,
What I see scares me."
yeah,
You know, there is trouble ahead. That's
yes,
the phrase. There is trouble ahead. You
yes.
know, and yet throughout we see people kind of like pushing it aside. You know, but Chris also is very worried when the president says fire Ikem and he says no. The attorney general, what the people can call it in Liberia, Cheche Pole. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
Cheche Pole.
yes, yes.
So the president asked the attorney general, "Do you think Chris is for me?"
Ah,
Eh? And the attorney general said, I like to deal in facts.
uh-huh.
But that doesn't stop him from saying to the president, but you know, Chris is friends with Ikem, and Ikem is from Abizon.
Yes.
So it could be that he's not 100%. That's why he said he's not 100% for you.
So
Yeah.
at the heart of it all, okay, is this whole thing about confidence. An individual who is in power that does not have a modicum of confidence is a dangerous person. This person is open to a lot of things, and those things that that person is open to are falsehoods. That person sees what may be glittering as gold when it is not. And such things eventually pull the person off the stage at a point if he or she did not want to leave the stage. Again, it comes back to the essence of understanding the anthills symbol. At one point, we can talk about the rallying call of people. At another point, we see the forces, the voices and the forces that end up destroying this anthill or this collectivity that should be there for a nation to survive. And that can be a very traumatic experience, especially if all along one had not been following the marshalling of events that are going to come together to kind of eventually explode. We've seen that even in our very own country, Liberia, uh, the 70s, when definitely there would have been meeting of the minds, definitely there would have been important dialogue, the essence of dialogue, the essence of conversation. But sadly, those who may have been there thought that the what seemed power was going to kind of take them through. And eventually, what happened? The whole nation was turned upside down.
Yeah, sorry, Prof. I'm trying to find
Yeah.
the light because it seems as if it's getting
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
dark in here. Yeah, and another thing that we see in Anthills is about the role of the writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you remember when we started, we said what was the role of the writer, and we said Achibe says the writer is part of the society and cannot be an onlooker.
Yeah.
So Ikem is not an onlooker.
No.
Ikem is actively involved in the society. Even at danger to himself,
Yeah.
he's actively involved in the society. You
And
know,
and again, this brings in the clinical nature of the media, the clinical nature of the writer. In other words, objectivity is very much important for the redemption, for the safety of the whole, for the kind of clear mindset of people that is supposed to help move things from one point to the other. But if people do not bring a clinical mind, objective mind to whatever is discussed and what have you, whatever is seen, what have you, it becomes a problem. And that is what Ikem feared. That is what Ikem feared. Unfortunately, Sam did not see it that way. Sam did not see it that way. He thought by being mere friends, we've come a long way and we are working together. Therefore, whatever dirt should be swept under the rug and move on with my perspective. Sam, my meaning Sam, and that became a kind of a point of tension that it kind of destroyed a lot of things in the country.
yeah, I think that the book is very, very, because it mirrors the Nigerian society at the time. And Abizon, it almost mirrors Biafra. Those
Yeah,
who remember the Biafra War. But one of the things that one of the events that was pivotal in the book was when Ikem was invited to go and give a talk.
yeah,
Yeah, he went to give a talk, and I took the quote because I want us the people who are watching and us to read this
the
thing,
quote. Yeah,
to see how you have to stand up even at great personal sacrifice. I'll put it up, we can read it together, or I'll
yeah,
read it. I
yeah,
mean, of course the people can read it. It's here. It's the political mediation of the on the imperative of struggle,
yeah,
right? He says whether our so what happened, let me so what happened was that the people from Abizon, they had gone to see the president.
yeah,
The president didn't want to see them. These people needed water and they couldn't get water, so they went to the president, and the president just kind of brushed them off. So they invited Ikem to speak to them because they didn't know what was on, but they said, we need water. We are suffering and we need water. So when they invited him and he went there, this is the speech that I really like, Prof. So I think we're able to see the entire thing. Yeah. So the guy gave the story about the tortoise and the leopard, but
yeah.
oh wait, I think I can find it here. Bear with me. I think I have the anthills of the savannah. I got it. What is it, Prof? I got it as an ebook.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, I got it as an ebook. Okay, so he says, okay. Okay, so I will read this part because it's not on the PowerPoint, and then the one on the PowerPoint, I will have it. He says, uh, um, so there are two gods, right? There's Agu and there's madness, right? So he talks about them, but then he says, I'll start from here. He says, when we were told 2 years ago. Now, yes, the fun part. When they went to see to see Sam, 2 years had passed. If you remember, when they went to see the president, Sam, who's the president, told the guy who was going to meet them, say, go tell them I'm on the phone with the President of the United States or the Queen of England. So when the guy went to tell them, he said, oh, the president cannot meet you because he's on the phone with the big man in America. That was 2 years ago. So now they are explaining and they are telling their story. And this is what they say. He said, let me show you. There is another thing that showed me there was deception in the talk. He says, the people who were running in and out and telling us to say yes came one day and told us that the big chief himself did not want to rule forever, but that he was being forced. Who is forcing him? I asked. The people, they replied, and that means us. I asked, and their eyes shifted from side to side. And I finally knew that cunning had entered the matter. And I thanked them and I left. I called my people and said to them, the big chief doesn't want to rule forever because he is sensible. Even when a man marries a woman, he does not marry her forever. One day, one of them will die and the marriage will end. So my people and I said no. But that was not the ending. Because you say no to the big chief, he is very angry. And he has all the water boreholes they were digging in your area to be closed so that you will know what it means to offend the sun. You will suffer so much that in your next reincarnation, you will need no one to tell you to say yes, whether the matter is clear to you or not. And then some of the people in the audience said, God will not agree. Right? So then it comes to the he says, some time ago, we were told that the big chief himself was planning to visit our village and see our suffering. Then we were told again that he was not coming because he had just remembered that we said no to him 2 years ago. So we said, if he will not come, let us go and visit him in his house. It is proper that a beggar should visit a king. When a rich man is sick, a beggar goes to visit him and says sorry. When the beggar is sick, he waits to recover. And then he goes to tell the rich man that he has been sick. It is the place of the poor man to make a visit to the rich man who holds the yam and the knife. Yeah. So now, yes, the one that I want us to read together because I think it's such a beautiful piece, Prof. And I'll put it on the stream. So he said, whether our coming to the big chief compound will do any good or not, we cannot say. We did not see him face to face because he was talking to another big chief like himself who was visiting from another country. But we can go back to our people and tell them that we have struggled for them with what remaining strength we have. Once upon a time, the leopard, who had been trying for a long time to catch the tortoise, finally chanced upon him on a solitary road. Aha! He said, at long last, prepare to die. And the tortoise said, can I ask one favor before you kill me? The leopard saw no harm in that and agreed. Give me a few moments to prepare my mind, the tortoise said. Again, the leopard saw no harm in that and he granted it. But instead of standing still, as the leopard had expected, the tortoise went into the strange action on the road, scratching with hands and feet and throwing the sand furiously in all directions. Why are you doing that? Asked the puzzled leopard. Right? The tortoise replies, because even after I am dead, I would want anyone passing by this spot to say yes. A fellow and his match struggle, my people, that is all we are doing here, struggling. Perhaps to no purpose except those that who come after us will be able to say, true, our fathers were defeated, but at least they tried. Right, Prof? Prof?
Like Floyd McCoy, if we must die, the poem that he has in there, and it says, well, look, we know we earn your match, but by the time the match is over, even if you are looking at our dead bodies,
Yes.
you will respect that there
Yes.
was a fight that was put
Yes.
up or what have you.
That's what the people said.
Yeah.
I found that very, very, he got the poor turtle, he fighting by
Yeah.
himself. He said, because when somebody comes here, I don't want them to just think that, oh,
Just came and
the
grabbed
leopard ate the
him.
tortoise.
Yeah, yeah, like
They want to say, at least the tortoise fought for life.
that. Yeah, yeah,
So that's the people in Abizon. They say,
yeah.
it's true that this king will not, this president will never come to see us.
Yes.
We may die
Yeah.
because we don't have water.
Yeah.
If you remember in the beginning of the book, they said there was drought, but the president had the president had said they should turn the water off.
Oh yeah.
So this town had no water because they didn't vote for the president.
Hmm.
But this group is saying, well, at least we went to go ask the
Yeah.
president. So even if the president said no and we die, at least our people will say we try.
Yeah.
You know?
The irrationality of for political revenge is elevated over there. The
Yeah.
irrationality, you know very well that they whatever revenge you have, whatever angst you have with the people, you are just one person, and to just because you can lord it over everybody, to just ignore the plight of these people and vent your feelings over there, that's one of the unconscionable things that one will find in political history, not only in modern times, but also it has an enduring effect over time.
Yeah, and one of the things that's very interesting in this book is that Sam, he doesn't want to like you could get into power by corrupt means. You could get into power through the spilling of blood, but you could learn to be a good leader when you are in power. But it is not Sam. Sam says, and this was really interesting. He said, when they told the colonizers to go, and a white man decided to leave, he said they did not know that the white man would take his tools with him. He said the white man packed up his tools and left. Why didn't he leave the tools for us to use?
What
You
if he
know?
didn't know how to use the tools that he will leave behind, or what have you?
Yeah, but it's also saying that for Sam, he doesn't see any value in culture because the culture itself has leadership mechanisms in it. It's not just the white people
Yeah.
that know how to rule or know how to lead.
Yes.
But Sam is saying, but when the white people were going, why the white people didn't just leave their tools here for us to use, because now we don't know how to lead, negating the fact that the cultural nation, they do know how to lead.
And the political structure and what have you.
Yes, because even if you look, inherent in these things are civil groups.
Yeah.
I mean, even you go places in Liberia, people have community leaders. So there is a structure inherent in
Look for it.
indigenous culture.
Yes, look for
You
it.
know,
You have
yes,
to look for it. You have
yes,
to first respect it and look
yes,
for it, because if you don't respect it, you won't want to look for it. But if you have cognizance of the fact that there were structures, there have been structures, and one wants to know, explore the knowledge and the skills in such structures, then definitely a pathway can be open for forward movement.
yeah. And Achibe says, because he says, if you create out of the number of what you call tribes another unit, which you might call state or nation, then what you should do is to think about what you should put into it, so that all these people that you have drawn into the new unit will have a stake in it.
Yes.
Something must be done to make people feel they want to sacrifice their lives, if necessary, for this other unit, because it is so exciting, so powerful, and so strong.
And that is especially beginning with something must be done to make people feel they have. It is very much important, because that is an understanding of the new identity and the willingness collectively to pursue that specific identity, to elevate it, to make it a collective ownership, that type of thing, which is very much important in the process.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about the other day, about the Liberian identity.
Yes.
Because if you, some people say, oh, but the people, they're too tribalistic. But the fact is that some people, they feel greater affinity and closeness to their tribe.
That's what they know.
That's what they
But this,
know.
that's what they know. You have to disabuse them of it. And it is
Yes.
not true imposition,
Yeah.
but a mutual type of conversation, dialoguing. That is going to bring out the major aspects of the features, the new that will create the new feature. I mean, that will create the new entity that all of us will kind of espouse to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they know. But and of course, that's what they know. And sometimes the tribe or the group you belong to, they're the ones that are able to tend to your needs.
That's what it
If you
is.
need something, if you need justice, you go to
Yes,
the traditional
that's
elders and things like that.
that's what it
So
is.
Achebe is saying we are creating this new thing.
Yes,
But in this new thing, you must make it stronger,
yes,
you must make it powerful, but
yes,
you must let it appeal to the people so that they are
yes,
willing to die
yes, yes.
for this new thing that you're building,
Let
So
us
they
let
so,
us
so
yes. Let us even talk about let us even talk about justice. Our people, the indigenous, believed in the concept of arbitration and what have you. If
yes.
you bring in adversarial justice, which is that you get in there, you talk whatever you want to talk, you evidence and what have you, so to speak, and you win, the other person goes with what? A broken heart. When in fact, what should be done is to create a medium through which uh, that rupture that came with the conflict can be repaired so that the society is whole again. Making things whole again was the people's concept of justice. But if you pull it apart and say, well, look, if you don't win, you just go home, yeah, let your family drink salt water and what have you, it will not easily cut it. And that created one of the conflicts in the place, not only in Liberia, but also in places where indigenous, where African as well as Western came into clash in terms of trying as much as possible to settle that which ought to be settled.
Yeah, it's like things fall apart. When Okongo broke the harvest of peace, or
Yes,
the festival of peace, he
yes,
was sent away
yes,
to live in his mother's village for, I think, 7 years, and then come
yes.
back.
Hmm.
So it wasn't that the punishment is equivalent to the severity of the crime. But they did have punishment
Yeah.
during those times. So Sam didn't see. You remember Sam, Ikem, and Chris? They were educated in the West,
Yes.
and Sam did not see the value. So Sam and Ikem, they are extremes. Ikem saw value in his culture. Sam did not, and Chris tried to walk the fine line.
Yeah.
But you see, Prof, one of the things that they always say is that even the Bible says that God doesn't like people who are lukewarm. Even uh, uh um I think Martin Luther King says, if you are neutral in the times of injustice,
Mhm. Yeah.
you are just as guilty.
Yes. Yes. You
Yes,
have to be part of it and make sure that you bring sanity
yeah. So
to explosion, to confusion, to conflict, and what have you.
yeah, so Chris tried to walk this fine line by trying to please everybody. He tried to please the president. In fact, when he told Ikem that the president wanted him to fire Ikem was very angry with him. Ikem said, "But why didn't you tell me this before? I would have known. I don't know if Ikem would have changed his ways, but at
Mhm.
least he would have been more alert,
Yes,
you know?
alertness will be very much important in the process.
Yeah, because when he was marked, um, the first one was when the police stopped him. And then, of course, he went back to his normal thing. But
Yeah,
at that time, they were targeting him. And he was unsure of that because he was not aware of that because he did not know.
yeah,
But by the time Sam could say to him, "Oh, yeah, the president said you did this," it was too late.
yeah.
He was already targeted.
Hmm.
So sometimes your omission or your commission,
Yeah.
is deadly.
I think the whole thing is making sure that one would say, well, can any human being so easily do that? Which is being alert all the time, but it pays to kind of keep your environment in mind. It's important for you to be on the lookout, especially when you come into the service of humanity, when you come into the service of the public. You've got to, you cannot be simplistic in thinking that, well, if I see people or if I hear people clapping for me, then it means that all is well and good. No, you must be your own security. It's very much important for you to be your own security. I know it's better said than done, but it is a useful tool. It is a noble thing to be alert to things that are occurring around you. Complacency can do a whole lot of damage. So one has to be very careful about that.
Yeah, that's true. And then one of the things one of the things that was very interesting in the book is the one about charity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, about giving money to the people on the street and things like that. And there were some quotes that I listed. One says, "Charity is the opium of the privileged."
Mm-hmm.
From the good citizen who habitually drops 10 kobo from his loose change and from a safe height above the bowl of the leper outside the supermarket, to the group of good citizens like yourself who donate water so that some Lazarus in the slums can have a syringe boiled clean, as a whistle for his jab and his sores dressed more hygienically than the rest of him, to the band-aid stars that lit up so dramatically the dark Christmas skies of Ethiopia. Why do our good works let us not forget that the real solution lies in the world in which charity will have become unnecessary? And he goes, and those who mismanage our affairs would silence our criticism by pretending they have facts not available to the rest of us.
Yeah.
Our best weapon against them is not to marshal facts, of which they are truly manageable, but passion. Passion is our hope and our strength.
Yeah.
And then this other one is very important because he talks about those who they come and they want to say, "Oh, we are one of you." So they almost mimic what you're doing. They mimic, what you're doing. But actually, he says that that's just a show, because what he says is, come to think of it. Oh, sorry, Prof. He says,
And
come to think of it, that might explain the insistence of the oppressed, that the oppressor must not be allowed to camouflage
yeah.
his appearance or confuse the poor
Mm-hmm.
by stealing and masquerading in their clothes.
That's charade.
Yes, it is the man of that primitive integrity of the earth. Or who knows, it might also be something less innocent, and insistent that your badge of privilege must never leave your breast, nor your coat of many colors your back, so that on the wrathful day of reckoning, you will be as conspicuous as a peacock. Right? Yeah. That those who want they mimic you. Oh, I'm one of you. You see, I used to live in this zoning where I used to live Mama
Yeah,
Point,
yeah.
I'm one of you. So he says they wear your clothes.
It becomes a wand, yeah,
Yeah.
magic wand with
Or
which you
magic wand.
control they control the crowd, or they think they are controlling the crowd until
Yeah.
actually things explode, and there's everything goes amok.
But he said your badge of privilege must never leave your breast, nor your coat of many colors your back. So he said, don't sell yourself short. If you know where you're from, you wear it proudly, so that the day
Yeah,
when judgment day come,
you know.
God said will say, oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Moses
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I think that there are so many things that you can so many themes you can find in this book.
And
You know
in
that, yeah.
fact, yeah, you keep in mind that the beauty, the strength of a piece of work is dependent upon the variety of themes that one can pull out of that work, the variety of people, the motley crowd that can go in there, each finding a piece of thing to call his or her own.
Yeah.
So that is what, especially within the context of political literature, you find that book very much important. In Petals of Blood, the people of Imorok,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, again, it is this water thing. It
Yeah.
is this water symbol. It is this water thing. Because people know that water is life. You can play with other things, but water, you cannot. And if you play with that, then of course, eventually that becomes your undoing. In Petals of Law, there is a group that decides since these people in the capital cannot come to us, we are going to go to them. And the representative out there who often continue to be play it that he represented those villagers. When the villagers get in there, they say he says that they by themselves did not think about that. Can you just see what is happening? They themselves could not have thought of the idea to walk that number of miles to go to the Kenya capital, Nairobi. So here we see the people who came from Abizon go to Bassa to present their case about water, and they are kind of treated like trash, and that becomes a problem eventually.
Yeah, and I guess the thing also that Achebe tries to show is that people are punished for their votes. You know, if a entire province is easily identifiable as, oh, you didn't vote for me, you know, you should be you should be able to vote your choice. Because if you look at it, when they marched over to see him,
Yeah.
he asked the chief of police, what's happening here? And the chief of police did not know, and he said, how can you not know? You know, and then he sent the professor to go and ask them, you know. And he first, at the beginning, he wanted to meet them, but it's these same people, his advisors, his
Mhm.
ministers, that
Yeah,
said to him,
the
you do not
handlers.
have to go. So the book, whereas you know, it shows Sam a lot. I think Achebe was trying to show the insidiousness of sycophancy, of trying to placate somebody. You know, Sam gets into power, and is not aware of his power, his abilities. You know, Sam is depending on these people to tell him, okay, since the people did not vote for you, the law says you have to have 100% of the votes to be considered president for life. But you didn't get 100%. There's one province that didn't vote for you. These people who are asking you for water now, you know. But don't worry about them, chief. You will still be president for life. So they bend the rules, you know, to be able to please the president.
And in a sense, they are pleasing themselves too, though,
Yes. Oh,
because
yes. Yes.
yes, because if the chief is pleased, what is going to happen? The chief is going to what? Retain them.
Retain
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And another thing is that and so the president, the king, the president keeps saying, oh, but then I can do more, you know, because if you're telling me that even if they didn't vote for me, the law say I can't be president for life, and you say I can be president for life, then what else can't I do?
What else?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Are there views out there?
Yeah. Let's look at some of
Yeah.
the questions, if there are questions. Akoi saying,
Hmm.
Emmanuel Jackson is watching.
Okay.
uh Ahmed Jalate is watching. Yes. Emmanuel says politics as described by the Greeks, the act of determining policies in government. There isn't anything worthwhile to inject dictatorship or autocracy as its function.
Yeah.
Greed, insecure political longevity of leaders undermine the wholesome function of political institutions. Example, Putin's dictatorship harms Russia's future and dehumanizes Ukrainians' human rights.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
powerful statement there.
Okay. President Nyanito says that's what we call a talk about Kahina, the Berber queen in our New Day community on Wednesday of this week. We are looking at great African women warriors, and we look at how Kahina fought against the Arab invasion to her death. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Priscilla. Yes, we had really strong women warriors. Yeah. I don't see any more comments. But I mean, the thing is that I think Achebe was trying to warn us about this, to say, look, you know, don't 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 imbue somebody with power more than the authority gives them, I guess, because they kept putting it on, right? And even when, remember when we were talking about the minister of education, how the minister of education education was a real sycophant.
Yeah.
He did everything that the president wanted. So it was really interesting to see how Achebe shows that even if there was like one or two within the president's inner circle who was able to stand up to the president, at the end they all did what the president wanted them to do, right, Prof?
Yeah,
They all
I'm
did.
listening. Yes,
Yes.
of course.
Yes.
In uh, and hills of the savannah, um, uh, Achebe pins a kaleidoscope of what it is for something that has the capacity of destroying the whole if not managed very well. And because actually, we all see how eventually the whole thing goes down the hill. And that is what, incidentally, that is what a key role of the writer is, not only in Africa. You can talk about Russia, you can talk about several other, even in Latin America and what have you, Central America. So what the the writer's role is to continue to be at the watchtower, continue to be at the watchtower, and continue to speak truth, continue to speak
Yeah.
truth to power.
Yeah.
And well, in the process, sadly, the writer might become a martyr. But the key thing is that the words, the works, never so easily what? Never so easily die. And
Yes.
if it is that, like I always say, that is something that stretches to uh, immortality, then that's what it has to be. Because actually, we are not here forever. We are mortals and what have you. But there is a point of arriving at immortality by virtue of the things we honestly see and we honestly have to report, so that society after us can see and see if there be anything of value in it. Well, we can always think about these things, as the Holy Scripture always say.
Yeah, and even there's one place where it's so funny. He's trying to he describes the honorable minister for education,
Mhm.
and I quote, "He is by far the most frightening of the lot. As soon
Mhm.
as he sniffs peril in the air, he
Mhm.
begins to disappear into his hole, as some animals and insects do,
Mhm.
backwards."
Yeah, yes.
that was
And
that was funny.
yes, and it's a very sad thing, because it is known that good education makes us fearless. Good education makes us fearless.
That was before, Prof.
Yeah, well, as what it ought to do. I mean, if we must put it that way,
Yeah.
that is what. Now, whether in the past or not, it is supposed to. That's why I said supposed to make us fearless. If with your education you don't have a spine, then there's something wrong with you. Then it means
Yeah.
that you just got the knowledge, but you didn't have the temerity to keep it flowing, the temerity to ensure that out of you, the knowledge you got, the skills you got, you can become a path finder to help people navigate the challenges of life.
And I think that's what Achebe was trying to show, that your education will really not save you, if you don't put it to use, if you don't stand up, for something. Because, like he says, first of all, you have leaders who think that, like Sam, that the West should be the one to teach these morals, these ways to rule. But yet, in this same book, Achibe shows you that why are you depending on the West? Look at Lou, the journalist
yeah,
who came from America to interview the president, to show Americans how things are in Kanga. He is drinking, he
have a
barely
good
speaks
time.
to
Yeah,
be, yeah, and to Beatrice, having good time. So I guess for me, I think that Achebe is trying to show that you say that the West should bring your tools to teach you how to be leaders, but look at this man. He's a representative of the West, and he is not showing any leadership. So why do you think that? But then he shows that, look, there are different aspects of this new post-colonial Africa. You have somebody like Ikem, who is fearless, who will stand up, who identifies with the local people. Even though he's working for the government, he identifies with them. But his standing up comes at a cost. That's one person. Then you have Chris, who comes with his Western education, and he tries everything he can to blend with the local people, but to obey the president, to walk this fine line because he need his job. He don't want to bother anybody, but yet Achibe is saying you have to choose. Either you stand up to the president and say, Mr. President, this thing is not right, right? Maybe a great personal cost to you, but either you stand up, but you cannot be a man of the people and a man of the government if the government is doing wrong. You have to choose. Which side are you on? Then you have the third person, who is Sam, who knows what he wants. He wants power. He don't care who he steps on.
yeah,
Then you have the local people themselves, in the taxi drivers, and those people who came to listen to Ikem speak. And then, of course, you have the person who is straddling both words. Beatrice is in both words. She's educated, she's working for the government, but yet she's part of the local masses. And she sees trouble coming. And she's able to say it because she's in both worlds. She can listen to what this group is saying, and she can listen to what this other group is saying and say, I see trouble ahead. So I think Ant Hills of the Savannah, I like the title because, like he says, ants work together. They build their colonies together. So it's almost like this nation state that we are building. We have to build it together. And I come back to Liberia. This new Liberia we are building, we have to build it together. So I really enjoy the book, Prof. And like I said, I hope that people will get to read Ant Hills of the Savannah. I think it's a very, very good book.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, at the beginning of our session here, you pointed out, for instance, that it is somewhat our own animal farm.
Yep.
By
Yes.
virtue of the fact that people start together and believe that they have a vision, believe that they have a vision, they have a mission. Unfortunately, by the time those people are getting to the center of realities and what have you, then you find multiple pathways. The whole thing becomes, like you're talking about, a delta, which has so many strings and what have you. And it is important for us to never forget the key mission, the key vision that has to be pursued. And it is in pursuing that mission that is collectively redemptive, that is going to kind of sustain posterity. Otherwise, so many things can go wrong. And that is what it's displayed as you go through the chapters of the book there.
Yeah, and as Priscilla said, there are a lot of women. Like she talked about Kahina.
Mhm.
And then the Ghana queen that was exiled. There are a
Yes.
lot of women who stood up
Yeah.
too. And I guess what Achibe is trying to say is that although individually we are significant, in the story of the building of the nation state, we're not really significant. It is the nation
Yeah.
that is significant,
Yeah.
and so sacrifices will be made, but it is the nation
Must
that
stand.
stands supreme,
Mm,
so I think, I mean, again, we come back to Liberia. What nation are we building?
mhm.
What is the Liberian identity? But in this book, I think Achebe shows it that regardless of education, you know people respond to things differently. Sam, Ikem, and Chris were all educated abroad. They didn't tell us where Beatrice went to school. At least I didn't read that part,
Mhm.
but she was educated as
Out,
well.
out, out of the country, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I didn't. Maybe I
Yeah,
forgot that
yeah.
part. And then there are a lot of ministers who are also educated,
Mm.
abroad. But here
So,
they are fawning and flaunting themselves, not flaunting, but flouting the laws,
yeah.
and and
But
and, and trying to please the president.
that also brings in the point, what is education?
Yes.
And the question is, what is education? If it is for satisfying personal longings and what have you, then there is a problem. Then there is a problem. But if it is something that is supposed to keep a whole together, because it is in the whole that individual parts can thrive, then it is that education that people ought to seek.
Yeah, and it also comes with the question, Prof, of um, what is power and what is authority?
Yeah, of course.
Because authority is something that is given to you, like a
Yes.
formal thing. I have the
Mhm.
authority
Yes.
vested in me to be
Yes.
to be president
Yes.
of Nigeria,
Yeah.
or I have the authority to do this to you, or so and so. But power is more personal.
Yes. Yes.
Power can
It's,
be in
it's innate.
anybody.
It's
It's
innate. Yeah.
flexible,
Yes.
it's dynamic.
Yes.
Sometimes you have the authority so you can exercise the power.
Yes.
But I could have power in my own home.
Yes.
Nobody gave me the authority. The
Mhm.
American government or the Liberian government doesn't give me the authority to rule this home. But there's power. And so that power is flexible, is dynamic, it changes,
And,
depending on the context. So that power that Sam had, and the authority that was given to him by virtue of the fact that he was president, those mix became a toxic mix. Yeah.
and that is why it is very much in what we're talking about. The concept of worldview. The concept of worldview becomes very much important. What feeds your worldview? What feeds your worldview? If your worldview is fed by things that are supposed to give you the energy to thrive, to make the lives of other people better and what have you, then that is a worldview that people should hold on to instead of being selfish and foolish.
Yeah. So, Prof,
Yeah,
we've come back to another.
yeah, and as we end, those of you who didn't know about it, I think I sneaked in there too. Uh, People didn't know that this very wonderful lady had her birthday.
Oh,
Miss Jackie had her birthday on the 27th of April, and
26.
26th of April. So mark it down. Every time it's coming, make sure that Miss Jackie is celebrated on the 26th of, uh,
Yeah.
of every year. So we want to thank God for her and urge God to always give us strength and give us wisdom and give her the temerity to be able to make a positive impact. So we thank God for her.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you, Prof. Thank you. Focus on Liberia. Yeah, when you reach a certain age, you don't even want to think about it because you start looking at the gray hair and you're like, oh. Yeah, yeah. Thank
Okay.
you, Prof. Yeah. So,
Okay.
uh, we had wished you had read the book,
Yeah.
so you can read, because this book is very interesting. It
Yeah.
it 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 pertains to the
Hmm.
times,
Hmm.
to what's happening in our country,
Yeah.
what happening in other countries
Yeah.
around the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
not just
Mhm.
in Africa.
It is an anatomy of
Yeah, you
politics.
know, yeah, we have the Ukraine, so
Yeah.
it's Putin like Sam,
Russia. Yes.
things like that,
Yeah.
so please read the book,
Yeah.
and the thing is that um I told you, Prof, that I left my copy at the office,
Yeah.
but when I came back and I was going I found it online.
Yeah.
So buy the book, read the book,
Yeah.
and learn about this nation state, and one of the stories that I really like is the story of the tortoise.
Yeah.
So I will end with it by saying, it's true that sometimes they say, oh, why do people just, like they ain't going anywhere, so and so. But I will say we will fight to uplift our country so that when our children come, they will say, at least we tried.
Tried. At least we tried.
When
Yeah.
they see that, oh, they were building something here, but it's not finished, at
Yeah.
least we
At least we
tried.
tried. Yeah.
Even if we are like Sisyphus and we are
Keep
pushing
moving
that boulder up,
up and down, up
and we
and down.
pushing the boulder up and the boulder keep rolling down and we keep going back up,
Yeah.
our children will say, at least we
At least we
tried.
tried.
And so that's what I always say. I know that there was no electricity at the airport, but I say, lift Liberia up.
Yes.
Even when you laugh twice, lift Liberia up.
Yes.
And Amara Sharif Kapili say he's watching from Brewerville, District
Oh, wow.
17.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much, Amara, for joining us.
Yes.
And we hope that you will join us again. We'll find another book. And as we said, if you would like for us to discuss a book, please send us the name of the book. Send us to us on focusonliberia@gmail.com, and we will try and read the book. If you've read the book and you just want to come and say, you know what, I want to come and discuss it, we don't always have to have authors on this show. You read the book, I want to discuss the book, Prophet, I will invite you on. Let's discuss the book.
Yeah.
We want to again, develop this culture of reading,
Yeah.
And love of literature.
Yeah.
So please let's make it more interactive. I know that on Friday you're tired or you're going out, but please join us and even if it's just a poem, you say, oh, Sis Jackie or Dr. Nangbe, K. Moses Nangbe, the way you describe it, that's not the way I know. Then you come on, and we can take it from there. So we want to say thank you to all of you for joining us. I think it will be a nice weekend. At least that's what they say in Ithaca, although it's being cold here, and we always say mask up. They say COVID is coming back, so mask up.
Please.
Yeah, and maintain safe distance, and we'll see you next week. If you have a book you want us to read, let us know. But we'll be here again next week at 6:00.
Yeah.
So please let us all be safe this weekend and enjoy the break.
Yeah.
Yes, Priscilla told me happy birthday. I remember. Thank you, Priscilla. Yes. So, Prof,
yes.
I wish you a happy weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wish the team of Focus on Liberia a happy weekend. And let us not forget, whether we are Chris, whether we are Sam, whether we are Ikem, whether we are Beatrice, we are all Liberian. And whether you're the tortoise or whether you are the leopard, at least we tried.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
We all Liberian.